Good day everyone, I am Hilshin Sitamundong, your discussant for today, and today we will discuss the short story of José García Villa, The Fence. So without further ado, let us start. In today's discussion, we will tackle first the life of the author, second, the story analysis in the lines of characters, setting, conflict, plot, point of view, symbolism, theme, and moral values. First, let us talk about the author. José García Villa was born on August 5, 1908, and died in New York City on February 7, 1997. He used the pen name Doveglayon, which was a combination of the words dove, eagle, and lion, and was what he believed was his true persona. José García Villa was a Filipino poet, literary critic, short story writer, and a painter. He attended the University of the Philippines, but he was suspended in 1929 after publishing a series of erotic poems titled Man Songs in the Philippines Herald magazine. That same year, he won a short story contest through the Philippines Free Press and used the prize money to travel to the United States, where he studied at the University of New Mexico. He was awarded the National Artist of the Philippines title for literature in 1973, as well as the Guggenheim Fellowship in Creative Writing by Conrad Aiken. Villa has won numerous awards, including the 1973 National Artist of the Philippines for Literature. His work in both poetry and challenging traditional poetic style continues to have an impact in modern poetry, both for members of the poetry community and other Asian American writers. Next is Villa's notable works. First is The Anchored Angel. Second, The Emperor's New Sonnet. It is a blank-page poem, and it's one of his visual poems that forego the words entirely. And lastly is his Footnote to Youth in 1933, Tales of the Philippines and Others. It became the first book of fiction by a Filipino author published by a major United States-based press. Now, let us move on to the short story analysis of José García Villa, The Fence. First are the characters. Aling Biang. She is the protagonist of the story. She is an unforgiving woman who was betrayed by her husband with her neighbor. Aling Sebia, the antagonist. She is Aling Biang's neighbor who has not seen a feeling of remorse having coughed with her neighbor's husband. Iking. He is Aling Biang's son who wanted his mom to reconcile with their neighbor. Aling Sebia's daughter, a girl who is good in playing guitar that made Iking to fall in love. Aling Biang's husband, a man who left unsettled with his wife. Next, setting. The setting is reflective of the kind of characters and the situation they would be in. Time, Christmas Eve. Place. First, Nipa House. The Nipa house looked desolate and empty, reflective of how their occupants behave and feel for each other. They have no neighbors, and yet the need for each other seems remote and distant. Second, roadside. They stood there on the roadside, they two alone, neighborless but for themselves. They were like two stealthy shadows, each avid to betray the other. Next is the conflict. The conflict in the story of The Fence is man versus man, as the two main characters are against to each other. Now, let us move on to the plot of The Fence. The story opens with the description of the setting and how the characters are reflected in the setting. Exposition. They should have stood apart, away from each other, those two nipa houses. There should have been a lofty impenetrable wall between them, so that they should not stare so coldly, so starkly at each other, just staring, not saying a word, not even a cruel word. Formerly, there had been no bamboo fence, there had been no weeds, there had been two rows of vegetables, one to each house. And the soil was not parched but soft and rich, but something had happened, and the fence came to be built. And the vegetables that were so green began to turn pale, then paler and yellow and brown. Rising action. One night, Aling Biang had caught her husband with Aling Sebia. The next morning, she had gone to the bamboo clams near the river Pasig and fed kings with her woman's strength. When morning dawned, she rose and went to the back of the house, although very tired, and began to split the bamboos. Her husband noticed her, but said nothing. By noon, Aling Biang had built that fence. Two tan country women finished the fence from the opposites to centerward. Climax. But early one night, from beyond the fence, Aling Biang heard cries from Aling Sebia. Unwilling to pay any heed to them, she extinguished the light of the petrol kink and laid herself down beside Iki. But in spite of all, the cries of the other woman made her uneasy. She stood up and went to the window that faced the fence and cried from there, "What is the matter with you, Aling Sebia?" "Aling Biang, please go to the town and get me a hilot." "Why do you need a hilot for?" asked Aling Biang. "I am going to deliver a child and I am alone. Please go fetch a hilot." Aling Biang stood there by the window a long time. She knew that the child's father is her husband. She stood motionless, the wind brushing her face coldly, and did not care of Aling Sebia giving birth to her child. She decided to lie down and sleep. Her body struck against her child's as she did so, and the child moaned. The other child too could be moaning like that, like her child from the womb of Aling Sebia. However, Aling Biang stood up, wound her tapis round her waist, and covered her shoulders with a cheap shawl. Falling action. Many years have passed. The boy Iking was not allowed to play by the roadside, and he could just catch glimpses of a girl on the other side. This made the boy to secretly sneak to the other side of the fence. At night, he hears an incomplete sound of a guitar he knew coming from the other side. At night, as he lay on the bamboo floor, notes of a guitar would reach his ears. The notes were metallic, clanking, and at the middle of the nocturne they stopped abruptly. Who played the raucous notes? Who played the only music he had ever heard in his life? And why did the player never finish her music? Iking asked. And one night, Iking approached her mother and said, "I will sleep by the door, Nanay. I want to sleep alone. I am grown up. I am 15. One morning, Iking woke up with a disturbing sound. He saw his mother reinforcing and strengthening the fence. "Why? Why?" he explained in protest. His mother stopped hammering. She stared at him cruelly. "I need it," she declared forcefully, the veins on her forehead rising out clearly. "Your mother needs it. You need it too." That night, no playing came from beyond the fence, and Iking knew why. Genoma. Iking really wanted his mother to allow him at least listen to the music, but he was never granted even though that night was Christmas, and both of them prayed for the Lord. Even after the Christmas Eve, Iking was still waiting for the guitar to be played because he is hearing the sound on that time, but it never played until 2 a.m. when Iking's eyes were closed and his hands were cold. So sick, he rested that night. At 3 a.m., the guitar was played and finally finished its playing, but Aling Biang was very angry, shouting that the guitar playing was a mock because his son is already dead. Now, we are done in the plot of the story The Fence. Let us move on in the point of view of the story. The point of view is third-person omniscient point of view, as the narrator knows every detail just like the thoughts and feelings of the characters, and the narrator uses the pronouns he, him, her, she, they, and so on. Also, the narrator is not part of the story and can give feedback and comments from different characters. Next, symbolism. The fence. The fence signifies the walls that hindrance and separate even best friends, family, or relatives. Bamboo. The bamboo strengthen the hatred as these bamboos take away the decaying feeling in the heart of Aling Biang and Aling Sebia toward forgiveness. Next is the theme. The theme is hatred. Hatred overrules Aling Biang and Aling Sebia. They are afraid that one of them would give way. The building of the fence seems necessary to protect them from seeing each other. Their attitudes reflect the remoteness and emptiness of their location. They have an unyielding fence between them to stay at arm's length from each other. Lastly, the moral values. The moral of the story The Fence by José García Villa is the importance of forgetting the past and forgiving others. Forgiveness is a way to the reconciliation of differences. On the other hand, hatred keeps the fire of revenge and angriness. The lesson of the story is that our decisions and actions have profound and long-lasting impacts, and it is not good to carry ill will when those consequences and impacts are disastrous. Committing mistakes is an integral part of human's life, and to forgive these mistakes and errors makes a person a good human and also gives one opportunity to repent his mistake. If we learn to forgive one another, it will make our relationship strong and build trust. And for us to forgive ourselves, we need to forgive others too, for us to live our lives in a happy way and to the fullest. That's all for my report. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.